Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the weekly Wringer series here on clanofthegraywolf.com. Now, probably going to be the last week we shoot in front of the old Christmas tree, as I'll be taking it down probably fairly soon, and definitely working on getting the relaunch to happen. I would say it's imminent. I won't say that I won't commit to doing it this week, but I'll definitely say it's imminent. Been putting a lot of work into that, and I think we're pretty close. So let's talk about the Weekly Wringer this week. We've got a lot of things to cover today. Got a few people to welcome. Got to talk about a great question from last week that many of you brought some really cool thoughts to. Specifically around all-in-one TVs with CES on the brain. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts, as I always do, and we'll move on then to a question for next week that really resides around, we hadn't talked about films in a while, we hadn't talked about movies in a while, and I thought it would be good, since it's Oscar season, to get us thinking about some movies. So I'll ask a question about that in by the end of the video for the Ringer for next week. So let's start off with welcoming our new folks, and do that every week. Try to definitely get everybody in. Try to not repeat myself, which I've done, I think. But in any case, it's great to have all of you that are new. And for those of you that have been watching for a while, I know several of you that are new this week have been watching for a while and just commented. There's certainly no problem with that. But I'll tell you, the comments part of this whole little function here definitely keeps things going. If there were no comments every week and people just kind of watched, then we wouldn't have much of a show, would we? I probably would have stopped doing this a long time ago. So, very glad to have any of you that comment. That being said, any of you that don't, just fine. They're just along for the ride. That's great. But if you do feel the need to send out any comments and let me know your thoughts because a particular question strikes you or the like, please feel free to do so. That is the lifeblood of the Weekly Wringer, folks. It's just as easy as that. So, let's welcome some of our new people. We've got Skate Like. Welcome to you. There were some comments, I think, in your post about having some weak English writing skills. Couldn't disagree more. We have several international viewers for which English is not their first language, and we are very excited to have you all. And so as long as I can make any kind of intelligible sense out of what you're trying to write, trust me, I take it into consideration for the best comments of the week. Now, for those of you that are native English speakers in one way or another, whether European, Canadian, American, whatever the case might be, trust me, I enact the grammar police in almost every kind of facet and form of my own life. So, I'll probably be keeping an extra eye on you. But for those of you that are not, certainly, and Skate Like is one of our international viewers where English is not your first language, don't worry about being wonderfully grammatically correct. Get your point out there. I will take it into consideration. No need to worry about that. We also had Bismarck, who is one of our longtime viewers. Really, since I think he said since the beginning. Glad to see that we asked questions that brought you out from behind the curtain into this side of the comment and of the camera. Great to have you on board as a commenter. And Brooklyn Surf as well. Welcome to all of you guys. Brooklyn Surf, I think, did some really cool work in a post that I think gets pretty close to some of the thoughts I've had about this question over the course of the week. And so it's great to have a first-time commenter that really makes that kind of impact. And we're glad it's happened several times. I love that. When people jump in and really provide a lot of great insight, I can't help but say thanks. So thank you to all of you. Very glad to have each of you as we move forward with the Weekly Wringer, and hope to see many more comments from you in the coming weeks, months, years. Question mark, question mark, question mark. All right, the question from last week, we got to get to it. We've got to tackle it. It surrounded the idea of all-in-one TVs. We've seen this at CES, not CSS. We saw this at CES this year. There's a big push by the manufacturers. We've seen it from Google. We've seen it from Apple, although we haven't seen it from Apple. We've heard rumors of it from Apple. we've seen several different vendors of television, Sony, as some of you mentioned, trying to make a move toward an all-in-one TV. And so my question for last week was, are you ready for an all-in-one TV? You know, are you really ready for that kind of purchase? What would something like that look like in order to make you kind of make the jump, as it were? And tremendous outpouring from the community. I thought there were a lot of great ideas, some of which I had thought about, some of which I had not. So let's dig right in. Briggs, who I believe was new last week, so great to have repeat offenders, talked about the idea of an all-in-one TV being kind of like having a giant iPhone on your TV, and I think that's probably just about true. If not in practice or reality, in principle. So think about the idea of why an all-in-one TV makes sense. It makes sense because now we have all these devices, a la the iPhone and tablets like the iPad and Android and all of these kinds of operating systems that are built as interfaces for devices that really do a lot of different functions. They are music players, they are video players, they are cloud devices that connect to content that doesn't exist on them in some kind of storage capacity. They are telephones, right? They provide GPS functionality. All of these things come from web. Let's not forget web. All these functions come from these devices. And so I think there is a kind of natural proclivity of the industry to move more toward that kind of a form factor in a television. So it makes sense that we have a giant iPhone on the wall. And that, when you really think about it, is kind of exactly what they're looking to go for. That's why I wanted to ask the question, though. Having a giant iPhone on your wall might be the greatest thing in the world. It might also be a terrible idea. I haven't really thought about it, which is why I wanted to ask the question, why I really wanted to spend this week thinking about it, and why I was asking for you guys' input. But I think we're all on the same page with that. It's really about putting a giant iPhone on the wall. So, great suggestion there. Alberto and me talked about the idea that it's a great idea, but not necessarily for him. And I think that's kind of where I'm jumping into this. So, it might be that many of you, and I think most of you put this in your comment, you like the idea. Well, an all-in-one TV just makes sense, right? I can get rid of all those boxes that surround my TV. And folks, if I could show you all the boxes around my TV right now, you would not believe it. But, and I've consolidated as much as I think possible. The point is that there is, I think, a natural, I guess, evolution of the television into being something that's kind of an all-in-one device. And not that it isn't a great idea, it's a great idea. But the question I was really asking is, are you really ready for it? Alberto's skeptical. Can't say I blame him, for many, many reasons. And we talked about some of them. Sonic Rose talked about, the inevitability of this form factor. And I think that's probably true. There are many reasons why, and we talked about them. But there are, following back on Alberto, one of the reasons why price is a consideration. Some of the other things we talked about, the inability for freedom to move devices or move what you're doing to different viewing devices. The ways that some of these devices that are portable or more mobile have evolved over the years has really, I think, brought us to a place now where we see that content in so many places that it seems almost unnatural for everything to be locked into the television. And so, I think that's worth consideration. There are plenty of the cost and the maintenance of such, which the Male White Mage points out. How in the world how expensive would this be to repair if something went wrong? The fact is TVs do fail, and, having an all-in-one means it's probably going to cost you a hell of a lot more money to fix because of so many of the different functionalities that it has. Same can be said for some of your mobile phones. If you buy one of the more advanced mobile phones, smartphones, so on and so forth, they become very expensive to repair. I mean, these are, potentially $600 appliances that you're getting for probably half of that through your carrier with a contract, and to get one of those things fixed is very expensive. Just look at something like an iPhone. A lot of times they do things without asking questions, which is awesome. I think that's a great part of what makes Apple successful. But I think if we're being honest with ourselves, being the expensive nature of the repairs, or even if you could get something like that repaired, and Apple seems to be more of the mind of why repair it, just replace it, which is, again, very successful for them, good for them for doing that. I think it could work, but it has to overcome those kinds of problems. And they are problems. Or let's not call them problems. Let's call them hurdles. There are definitely a lot of hurdles to entry of a singular television unit. And I'm not sure, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure that the hurdles, and I'm ready to jump over the hurdles. That's what the question's really about. That's what you guys are diving into here. Let's talk about Prangerate. Talked about the freedom to move, right? So, first of all, I want to highlight the idea of the KFC bowl of appliances. That is, first of all, that was probably the most entertaining comment of the week. That had me laughing. But it's also really interesting, I think, to think of this TV as kind of this all-in-one unit where we just mix in all these ingredients of our entertainment, we throw it into this one device, and it hangs on our wall. One of the reasons I think the iPhone or smartphones work is because they do all these things, but they also just fit right in our pockets, and we can bring them wherever we want to bring them. I think that was what makes them that little KFC bowl ingredient thing work, right? Having all of those features and then hanging it on my wall makes me skeptical. Does that same form factor carry the kind of functionality and usability that, say, a tablet or a phone can produce for you? I have to say, the KFC bowl functionality at that point doesn't seem so wonderful. But let's talk specifically about what Prangerate highlights, which is the freedom to move. For any number of different reasons. You're watching something in one room, and you have a TV set there, and it's an all-in-one. If you want to go and bring your PlayStation to a friend's house, or even to another room of your house, or whatever the case might be, if you have an all-in-one unit, guess what? You're stuck. It's there on your TV, and in order to bring a PlayStation to your friend's house or bring your PlayStation to your other room, you have to either find a way to serve it to your other TV, or you have to buy another one, right? I mean, there's no other way to kind of separate those things. And I think TV manufacturers are trying to push that way. What I'm trying to ask you guys is, I'm not sure if you believe the hype. I'm not sure I do either. Because the manufacturers are telling us they're trying to cram all the functionality into one device so it makes it easier and simpler for us. I'm not sure I want that, because of the idea of, I like the flexibility. I like being able to take my Xbox or take even my DVR and move it to another room and hook it to another TV. Or if I want to move the TV that I've always had in my living room and put it into my bedroom and then upgrade the TV for my living room. It seems really great for one particular room in the house, but it doesn't necessarily work for all of them. And being able to buy a TV as a pure viewing device in other parts of the house, I think, is a quintessential part of what it means to be buying a TV now. And I think they're trying to really disrupt that with the all-in-one model. And so I think Prangerate really brings forward some of those complications and those hurdles that I'm not sure are very easy to navigate at this point in the evolution of televisions, and at least how we work with it. Now, Bismarck, another launching right from the first comment posted, one that I think absolutely must be contended with, and that is, I want to use the old line from the 90s, it's the economy, stupid. Bismarck basically says, it's the interface, stupid, right? So it's all about the interface. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of you guys out there are going to say I'm nuts about that, because it's all about the functions, the features, the facets, right? That's what I think many of you would say. Commodore, you're crazy. It's not about the interface at all. It's about really being able to put as many functions inside of a television as possible. Folks, I couldn't disagree with that more. I think one of the reasons that the iPhone is the iPhone, in fact I know one of the reasons that the iPhone is the iPhone, or the iPad is the iPad, or that Apple has separated itself as an iPod versus an MP3 player, an iPhone versus a smartphone, an iPad versus a tablet, right? the reason we know those as such is one simple reason. Well, actually there are many reasons, but I would say the biggest reason is the usability, the interface, right? The unified, functional, and capable interface